Hello and welcome to another live Q&A session. I do these Q&A sessions every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern USA time. Right now, I am in Prague in the Czech Republic, and it's kind of a cloudy, gloomy day. It's been beautiful lately. Bright sunny skies and nice warm weather. And I have been very much enjoying my time here. But anyway, this Q&A is about perpetual travel, and especially traveling and being a content collector and content creator. Um, I travel the world. I write books. I'm a journalist at Forbes and The Guardian and lots of other big publications. I make films. I made films for BBC and whatever. I also do this vlog. And basically, I'm a traveling author, journalist, filmmaker, and I've been on the road since 1999. So that's coming up on 20 years, 2 decades. That's kind of makes me feel old. But anyway, if you have any questions for me, and my lifestyle or what I do or my profession, feel free to ask. Anything's open, and I'll basically just sit here and answer your questions and interact with the audience. Anyway, to start this Q&A, our first question comes from. Our first question comes from a YouTube user named Fatally Honest, and the question is, in terms of interviewing people, what sort of experiences do you think allowed you to cultivate the skill of asking questions and interviewing people? Basically, just through experience, you figure out what works and what doesn't. And what I found really works when you want to do an interview with somebody is to kind of lead them into the story gradually. Now, a lot of people now I don't write out questions in advance. That's something I do that most journalists don't do, because a lot of times I'm interviewed for the stories of other journalists and filmmakers. Uh, hey man, how you doing? And it's kind of annoying when someone's asking questions and they're just looking down at their little piece of paper, the whole entire time. So I don't have any notes. I don't have my phone on in front of me. It's just me talking to another person, right? So what I basically started out with doing is talking to the person about themselves, because sometimes people are a little bit nervous to be interviewed. They're maybe not so secure if they're really an authority on the topic that you said you're going to interview them about. But everybody is an authority on themselves about themselves, and the object is to kind of get them enjoying talking about themselves, because when people feel comfortable, pretty much everybody enjoys talking about themselves and getting that attention. Cool, man. There's a viewer, asking questions. But anyway, so that's what I do. What I want to try to find when I start an interview with somebody is this intersection of them and the topic that I want to cover, the topic that I want them to essentially teach me about. So what I do is I kind of ask them, what is your history? How did you get into this? How did you get the knowledge, to talk about this topic? Where did your experience come from? And you want to get them to start telling you the story of themselves. And oftentimes, once people get rolling, talking about their own story, they keep going, right? They keep going, and then they'll open up and kind of tell you everything. It's like tiny little flower to kind of like open up. You gotta shine some like warm rays of sunshine, right? So what you want to do is make the other person sitting across from you feel good about themselves. You want to make them feel confident, and you want to make them open up and tell you everything that you wanna know. I do that, and another thing is knowing when to talk and knowing when to shut up and keep your mouth shut. Now, sometimes when I'm interviewing, I don't ask questions. I'll just start talking about something, right? I'll just start talking about the topic that I want, an answer on, just making, statements, not even asking questions. And then I just stop and I look at the person. 99 times out of 100, they will pick up where I left off and start talking. And what you want to do is kind of run the interview, not as a Q&A back and forth interview, but kind of run the interview as a conversation. So I say something, they say something, I say something, they say, and then you build, to the climax, and your climax is, the one question that you really want answered, the quintessential, aspect of the story that you're covering. and people open up when they're talking. It's a good time. And another thing, like kind of like the previous tip is not saying something in an interview is powerful. Someone's talking, you know, and they're not really saying what they want to say or what they could say or what they're trying to, what they think they should hold back on saying, and they'll start talking and then they'll glance up at you. What are you doing in that instance is you just look straight at them and you don't say anything. You just look at them. And 99 times out of 100, they'll continue talking. And oftentimes, they would say things that you're not expecting. And of course, as I said before, I don't write questions down in advance. I will research the topic, but I'm not writing down questions in advance because I want to be able to ask, follow-up questions to what somebody is saying and not, my preset interview questions, what I think someone's going to say. Because oftentimes what somebody actually says is different than what you think they're going to say. So what I kind of want to do is run, interviews kind of like, a conversational ladder, getting higher and higher and higher and more, deeper into the topic that I'm covering. So that's basically it. What I aim to do in an interview to sum this up is just hang out. Just hang out and maybe drink a beer and, talk about some interesting stuff, right? It doesn't have to be so formal. Like a lot of times people interview me and they're just like so formal and uptight. I'm like, what do you think about this? Why is this? Blah, blah, blah. They're just basically reading a script and it's kind of like they're robots, I'm like, dude, come on, let's hang out and drink a beer. We'll have fun, So basically, I just want to have fun and talk to somebody when I'm doing an interview. And a lot of times when I'm doing interviews, I'm off traveling alone by myself, right? Sometimes for weeks or even months at a time. So, the people that I interview, these are kind of the people that I hang out with. So it's there's kind of a positive social element to me. Okay. Friends and bye. See you later, man. Anyway, our next question comes from Trevor. Good question. Trevor asked, how much money should I have before I hit the road again? Mentally, I'll be ready in 2 months or so, but also, should I buy a Lumix TZ80 camera and or a new smartphone? Two questions. I'll answer the first one first. How much money should you have before you go traveling? Ooh, that's kind of a tough question because ideally, I feel that you should aim to, develop streams of income that you can obtain or work that you can do while you're traveling. So you're always having money coming in. So essentially, you're not losing money traveling. I mean, there's pretty much two ways to set up travel finances. The first way, the more conventional way, is that you work somewhere, save up money, then go traveling. And then there's the other way, kind of the digital nomad, kind of perpetual traveler way, is that you make money as you go, right? That's, when I first started traveling, I was an archaeologist. So I travel around working on archaeology sites, and then I save up money and go abroad. Now the past 10 years or so, I've been, working in media, making websites, writing, being a filmmaker, a journalist and all that. So I make money as I go. And today, travel has become, a fundamental aspect of how I make money. I couldn't make money or do the job that I do without travel. And, vice versa. I couldn't travel without doing the job that I do. However, Trevor, his model is kind of like my previous way. My previous one, he kind of goes back to the UK, I believe, or some country in Europe. He works his butt off as like a waiter or a mailman or something like that. He saves kind of lives that kind of sedentary existence for a little while, researching where he's going to go, saves up some money, and then he goes. And it's interesting that Trevor would ask me this question because this guy has been, he's been traveling for I don't know, like a decade or something like that. He's been to almost as many countries as me. But if I was, back when I used to use the financial model of saving up money and then go and travel, I would usually make sure I had at least $5,000 saved up, depending on where I was going. And usually back in those days, I was more of a backpacker and I was looking for the cheapest destinations possible. And $5,000 was always kind of the bare, well, it wasn't the bare minimum. I took off on trips with $2,000 in my bank account before, but $5,000, that was kind of the first rung on the ladder of getting there. Like $10,000 or $15,000 was really what I was aiming for ultimately what I would do is I'd work on, like I said, on archaeology sites for a few months. I'll save up $10,000 and then I go travel and blow all that money and then come back and go to work again. So anywhere between five and $10,000, that's kind of the sweet spot, you know. I mean, 10 grand is gonna get you. I mean, if you're traveling cheap, 10 grand is gonna get you anywhere between 8 and 12 months of travel, you know, almost anywhere in the world. Well, not almost anywhere in the world, but figure kind of a grand a month you can travel on. You know, in most places, you're not gonna spend more than grand a month if you're not drinking a lot of beer and not partying and not, if you're staying in hostels. I mean, a grand a month is what, $30 a day, right? I mean, if you're eating street food or in Europe eating from supermarkets, $30 a day is good. For your budget, $5-10 a day for transportation, travel slow, rent places out by the month, or stay in hostels. Yeah, $1,000 a month is good. So, by the time that you blow through that 10 grand, you're probably gonna want to like change it up and do something else anyway. Because I mean, month after month after month of like backpacking and doing the same thing, get on the bus, get off the bus, go to the hostel, leave the hostel, go to the restaurant, find another restaurant, I mean, go on this tour, go on that tour, go out at night, talk to the same people from, the USA and Canada and Europe, I mean, the backpacking experience, it's a lot of fun for the first, month or two, but after that, most people tend to get bored and they need to do something else. They need to go work or, volunteer, take a class, learn something, build something, make something. So you got 10 grand. I mean, you're going to be able to travel for, longer than what you probably want to before you want to get a job and actually do something again. Okay. Oh yeah. Goy is here. Goy is he's from Malaysia. I met him in Penang. He was in one of my YouTube videos. He's a YouTuber and he kind of does pranks. Nice to see you, man. Do you have any questions? If you do, you feel free to ask. Anyway, Paul is here too. Oh, cheers, Paul. You have any questions, man? Oh, cool. Oh, hung out with me in the Philippines. Yo, man, what's up? I know you. Oh, Paul is the cousin of one of my best friends. I was just with him in the Philippines at that dude's wedding. So you got any questions, man? Anyway, he's a pretty cool dude. Likes to party, man. Likes to have fun. So that was a real good time in the Philippines. I didn't write anything about the Philippines yet. I will soon on Vagabond Journey. I'll probably mention Paul in there. Anyway, okay, let's go on to our next question. Oh yeah, Trevor's the second part of Trevor's question was, should I buy a Lumix TZ80 camera? No fucking way. No, 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 no. Don't buy a camera with one of those like little lenses that come out like a little robot. They will break. I've broke so many cameras with cameras like the mechanical lens, like we call them point and shoot cameras, right? You push the button and the lens pops out. That shit breaks, man. Don't buy one of those cameras. And also, get a real camera, man. Let's see. How much does this cost? Lumix TZ80 price. I mean, the price of this camera is like, I don't know, like $450 or so. I mean, with $450, I mean, you can buy a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera on like, eBay. I mean, you could almost buy, a GH4. Get a Panasonic Lumix GH4, man. Get something with a lens that comes off, right? Get something that will force you to learn. I mean, I don't know what your level is in photography, so I'm not going to assume. But generally speaking, if you're going to buy a new camera, don't dummy it down. Don't underestimate yourself. Don't buy, a more simple, more automatic kind of camera because you don't feel confident in your ability to learn how to use a camera. I made this mistake, man. I made this mistake, probably about 3 years ago when I started getting into filmmaking really heavy. I was like, I got some money. I made this documentary with some other people. I got a big bag of cash on it, right? So like, I'm gonna take this big bag of cash and I am going to invest it in a pro set of filmmaking gear. But what I did was, I kind of realized, I've been making videos. I've been making videos and, whatever on YouTube, for like 10 years before that. But then I realized that I didn't really know how to use a camera. I was using on all auto functions. So I was like, okay, I'm going to dummy this down for me. It's all about the story, not about the gear. So I'm going to get, a couple of cameras, but I don't need to have any technical knowledge to use. I got a professional Canon camcorder. What was it called? The XA30. Fucking nice camcorder, right? Cool. It does the job. So it's a pro camcorder, real easy to use. You can put it in auto and, just point, frame your shot and push the record button. Cool. And I also got myself kind of an Osmo, DJI Osmo, kind of a gimbal camera, right? Easy to use too. You just push the button and point, right? Now here's the thing. I ended up growing out of these two cameras within like 6 months. As I started like studying filmmaking a little more rigorously, I realized that I wanted my cameras to do things that these ones couldn't do, right? Just because they're marketed towards people that just want to push a button and point the camera, right? And so I totally just like blew like over $2,000, on two cameras that I used for maybe 6 months, right? Just because I kind of dummied it down. I dummied down, the pursuit. I dummied down my gear because I doubted my own, abilities. Within, 3 months of buying those cameras, I learned how to actually use a camera, and then I wanted something more advanced. Eventually, eventually I bought a Sony a6000, which is a kind of an entry level camera. I paid about $500 for it, and I was able to put it on manual and run it all manually. Right, I basically learned how to use a camera from the Sony a6000. Right, and then I moved up to the Blackmagic cameras a couple of years ago, and here I am now. So basically, yeah, don't dummy down your gear, right? Go for the highest level, most professional gear you can, because you can learn how to use a camera better. You can't make, a not very good camera better, right? You can learn, you can advance, and you can grow. But the cameras, the technology that you buy, that's kind of set in stone. So get a camera that you can get that will kind of grow, that you can kind of grow into. Kind of like buying clothes for a kid. A kid's growing, you buy them clothes a little bit, a few sizes too big, and they grow into it. Take that attitude with cameras, right? Because you will grow into it. Anyway, Paul asked, any plans to make it through the Middle East before it gets too hot? Nah, probably not, man. Probably not. It's gonna get pretty hot pretty soon. I don't think so. I do need to go back to Oman at some point, but I don't know when that's going to be. And I love to go to Kuwait. There's a lot of new city stuff happening in Kuwait. And I love to go to Saudi too, man. Go to like King Abdullah Economic City and these like other crazy, $100 billion+ new cities that they're building there. But that's probably not going to happen until autumn at least. And Paul also asked, do you ever run into issues at airports with your equipment? Nah, not really, man. I mean, basically, I just open up my carry-on bag is just all, camera equipment, right? There's nothing in the bag that's, not somehow related to filmmaking. So I just basically open up the whole bag, send it through. Security, someone looks at it, find me like, yo, I'm a filmmaker. And they're like, okay, because, 100 other filmmakers already went through there, before me, right? So that's no big deal. The problem, which I'm going to make a separate video about soon, the big problem is airport carry-on restrictions. A lot of airlines now are restricting the weight, not the size, the weight of your carry-on bags, like 7.5 kilos. Most carry-on bags empty weigh like 2 kilos, and there's absolutely no way that I can carry all the filmmaking gear that I need, and have it come out under 7.5 kilos or even 10 kilos. So what I have to do is like when I go and check in on an airline, and even sometimes if they're weighing bags, before you get on the plane, which is really dirty. That's really, really dirty business to do because, then when somebody's already through security, get on the plane, they're trapped. right? Either they're gonna have to give up their seat and leave, or pay to check their bag at the gate. So what I do is I stuff I have a leather jacket, has some big pockets. I stuff my pockets, full of gear, and then I put cameras down my pants, right? I had to stuff cameras like down my pants in order to like get on an airplane, right? Now I understand when it comes to airline, baggage restrictions, have size restrictions because you don't want people bringing full size suitcases on the airplane. But wait, that's another thing. That's another thing altogether, especially when you're talking about electronics that you can't check. A lot of them have lithium-ion batteries. A lot of them are too valuable, and you don't want to check them, and they're delicate. You can't check your cameras, right? And technically, you can't carry them on either. So what do? You gotta sneak them on. It's a bunch of bull crap. But I'll talk more about that later because that is probably the biggest issue that I deal with on a regular basis. Traveling, as a filmmaker and content creator. Okay. Oh, Paul, interesting. I didn't think of the weight factor. Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. I mean, if I like my carry-on bag, before I take all the stuff out, stuff it down my pants, it weighs probably about 16 kilos, right? So I need to remove between 6 and 8.5, 9 kilos of gear and hide it somewhere. I don't know, man. Something. I mean, the airlines need to start giving a special, photographer or videographer allowance because, electronic equipment's heavy. Cameras are heavy. You see these guys in airports a lot of times. They're coming into the Blackmagic Ursas or Alexas have to carry them in their hands, right? The reason why they have to carry them in their hands is because they put them in the bag, then they'll have to be weighed. A lot of times the airlines are kind of lenient a little bit if you have something physically in your hand. So they have these cameras that weigh between, and by themselves they weigh about 8 to 10, 12 kilos, and they have to hold them. It's archaic, man. It's almost barbaric. A lot of airline regulations on weight because they're just trying to save a few bucks, right? Trying to save a few bucks, to increase their business acumen, and there are limiting the ability of their passengers, their customers, to do business. A camera, if you're a photographer, cameras are part of your business. Anyway, let's move on to the next question. The next question comes from. Oh no, I didn't write down the name. And if you guys are watching, feel free to ask questions in the comments here, and I'll answer them right away. Okay. Why, how, and where did you choose ghost cities as your topic to write about in your first book? Well, it happened by accident, really. Ah, cool, Paul. Nice hanging out with you again, man. Talk to you later. How did I choose ghost cities, as in China's ghost cities, underpopulated new cities, as a topic for my first book? I mean, the story goes. I mean, I was a student in China in 2005, right? And 2005 was like right kind of at the beginning of China's new city building boom. So China was building these new cities, all over the place, and you ride a train, you see them, and everyone's like, oh, "What the hell are these places? Wow, they're building a lot here." But nobody really knew the story about them too much. And yeah, I was off traveling. I was a university student then, and I was doing a project on China's modern hermit tradition, which is actually really cool because talking about China, one of the most advanced, countries, that was a country that was becoming one of the most advanced countries in the world, that still had people living in the mountains. I had no idea what was going on, in the cities or the rest of the country, as a whole. They're just living as hermits on mountaintops. Like mostly religious hermits, Taoist or even some Buddhist, they sit up there in their huts meditating. They live in these little hermit communities. So anyway, so I did a project on this. I studied technically it's global studies. So it was really like anthropology and journalism in college. And so you go and you do like a lot of direct research about cultural topics, not just one of the topics I covered. So I took a bus. I studied in Hangzhou. I took a bus down to Tiantai, which is kind of a small sized city in the Tiantai Mountains. That's where Han Shan, the famous Chinese hermit, was from. So I went down to Tiantai, got off the bus. I'd never been there before. And instead of making a left-hand turn out of the bus station and going to the old town that was like normal, I made a wrong turn. I took a right and I walked into the new town. And I walked into this place. It was a completely like completely new section of the city that was built. 3-story buildings, commercial area, parks, places for shops, kind of mid and high rise apartments that was completely empty. There was, no people there. And I just kind of ran around this place, kind of like, being an idiot. And it's like, wow, this is crazy. There's like nobody here. It's entirely new city, and there's nobody there. So anyway, I did my hermit project. Then when I went back to Hangzhou, I went and I told one of my professors about it. This old kind of wise Chinese professor, and I was just like, hey, guess what I found? I found this new city in the mountains, and there's nobody there. And the guy's just like, yeah, those places are everywhere. He said, he just completely stole my thunder, right? Those places are everywhere, but something about what he said, something about those words, those places are everywhere, started kind of stuck with me. So I started looking for these new cities. I started looking for these new developments. Just as I traveled, around the outskirts of Hangzhou, as I traveled around China, and they were everywhere, right? I remember like stumbling into the new city of Arnholt, kind of on the border of China and Mongolia. Arlian is how you say that place name in Mandarin. And I'm hitchhiking. I got off on the side of the road and I walked into this town. I walked through, a completely new city built in the desert. So, I kind of got interested in these places, as a kid, as a university student. I was traveling around to them just for fun. Because in those days, especially, I mean, this was like the Wild West. If you're in a town that don't really have any people, there's no police, there's nobody there. It's kind of like this new wild area, right? And it's like something I've never seen before, which is kind of one of the prime directives of travel, is to see something new, to see something exciting, to see something that absolutely blows your mind in entire new cities without any people in them. Well, that kind of checked all my boxes kind of as a traveler. So anyway, fast forward to 2012, I'm back in China. I'm working as a professional writer. I'm making my living, blogging and writing articles, and I needed a topic. So I got back on the Go City bus, right? And I started traveling around to China's new cities and so-called Go cities, doing more of a formal journalistic project. And I wrote about this stuff online, and before long, I kind of surrounded the ship on the topic, right? So if you look online about China's Go cities, you were going to find me and stuff that I wrote about it, and I kind of became kind of an authority on the topic because I was the guy that went to these places. I was the guy who spent, years, literally going to these ghost cities, interviewing people about them, talking to people who live there. And that transformed, that propelled me to getting a book deal. I got an email one day from Paul French, who's like this, kind of a big name in China, the China literary scene. He's a New York Times best-selling author and whatever. So I get an email from him. Everybody knows who this guy is in China. At least all the expats. He's just like, hey, wait, you want to write a book for this series that I edit at Zed? And at first, I thought the guy was like, joking. I thought it was like, someone playing a prank on me, somebody messing with me, or he wasn't fucking serious. I was like, yeah, okay, dude, I'll write a book for you. Signed the contract, did another tour, went back to all of, China's, more well-known ghost cities, wrote the book, still not really taking it seriously, sent it into the publisher, and they published it. And that kind of propelled me to, where I am today. But this whole China Ghost Cities topic was, I don't know, no, I'm not sure if I knew what I was doing at the time, but kind of looking back, I did that project the right way. If you want to be a journalist, right? If you want to be an author, especially if you want to be like, more independent and actually travel and kind of do this, cool projects. Actually do cool stuff, right? Most journalists kind of sit in a room all day. It's really important that you kind of pick a topic that people are interested in. That there's, some degree of confusion or misconception about something that requires a lot of travel. And then all of a sudden, being a traveler and traveling gives you a competitive advantage, right? Because you can actually go out and spend time in these places or spend time directly interacting with the topic that you're covering, more time than any journalist, more time than most authors, more time than most academics, right? As a traveler, you have time, right? You have the ability to go to, where you want to go, right? And as I said, this gives kind of gives you the competitive advantage. And if you are kind of, trying to become the expert in the topic that you cover, the authority, the blank guy or the blank girl, right? I was the Go Cities guy, and then I became the New Silk Road guy. I was, the China e-commerce corruption guy. So you pick these topics with the ideal of becoming the authority on that topic, and you become the authority by interacting with the topic directly, face to face, on the ground for a long period of time, and you write a massive amount of content about it. You publish a massive amount of content about it in various media, in various various media sources, but also in various mediums as well. I mean, in text journalism, big journalism, blogging, making videos, vlogging, maybe shooting documentaries, maybe doing radio programs, and you kind of like go for the splatter gun effect. We and you kind of sorry, you go for the splatter gun strategy where you just kind of shoot your expertise on this topic out to all corners of the universe, and basically just kind of wait for the interest to build, and people come to you to ask you for more information about it, to interview you, to want to have you in their shows and in their documentaries, want to hire you to write stories from them, right? But kind of surrounding the ship on topics of interest is vitally important for journalists or authors or content creators that are just starting out, just going out and writing like one or two articles about anything and everything, or choosing like continuously like random or different topics each time isn't going to get you anywhere, because one person's name, one person's byline associated with a topic once or twice is nothing. The way that you kind of build a name for yourself and build authority is when you have your name associated with a topic over and over and over and over again, to the point that anybody who does research on this is going to get to know your name. You mean search, New Silk Road, Alton Road, you're going to find me. Search, Hortigos Gateway, search, Hambantota, you're going to find me over and over and over and over again. And that's by design, right? Because I know that's how you, become an authority on, basically become authority on topic. And become an authority is kind of, I mean, it's essential to kind of be able to kind of create opportunities based off the knowledge that you gained. So anyway, and on that topic, I'm starting to get ready to move on to a new topic, a new avenue for exploration. I did China's Ghost Cities. I did New Silk Road for 3.5 years. That book is just about finished. And I did, China e-commerce. That kind of got blown up by my publisher. So I'm kind of getting ready to pick something else. And when I do this time, I'm going to document the whole process. How I choose the topic, why I choose the topic. How I started to develop, the appearance of being an authority on the topic. How I use that authority to kind of make money off of writing about the topic, or off of producing media about that topic. I'm going to document that step to step on a new site that I'm working on now. It's called thechroniclers.global. This is a new site, and it's not really launched yet, so I'm not really talking about it too much. But basically, it's just a site that's a resource for people who want to travel the world and write about it, or make films about it, or just being a traveling content creator. Anyway, let's go on to the next question. The next question is okay. That's kind of an older question. I don't think I've ever answered it. How do you manage your finances traveling around and being a nomad, so to speak? You don't need to give details. That's personal and private. For example, me and my wife, we have a house in Northeast Thailand, and it would be difficult and expensive if I did not have a Thai bank account, but we reside in the UK. How I manage my finances is by like not having things like houses. I mean, I make about 40 grand a year. I make between 35 and $40,000 per year, which is kind of decent for being a, I like my independence in my profession. I like to be able to choose my jobs and, choose my topics. And, I'm basically, um, I hate to say it, I'm kind of more of an artist than a businessman, right? I make between 35 and 40 grand, and that's really not a lot of money. However, I don't have all these things to spend money on, like a house, like a car, no car payments, not really any loans, that I'm paying. I don't really have any expenses other than the day to day. I have equipment expenses, buying new cameras and stuff, which my wife, you know, really hates, right? But and I go kind of kind of excessive about it. I really love buying, film gear or whatever. I call it an investment, but it's also kind of a hobby and buying new toys. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm able to, manage my family finance and travel the way I do because I don't have other expenses. If I had a house, if I had, car payments, if I had expensive school payments for my kids, if I had, all these things that kind of build up and make the sedentary life what it is. If I had all this stuff, I wouldn't be able to travel. So it's just basically a choice that you make. I live kind of hand to mouth, for the most part. I through each year I spend just about as much as I make, but I'm living how I want to live. I'm doing the work that I want to do. Each morning I wake up and I'm doing something I'm passionate about, right? Doing something that, I like doing. And that's, more important to me than, making a lot of money and having a nice house, right? So it's just about choices. However, I do really respect people who want to go out and have a nice house and, nice lawn, who like, go out and like mow their lawn and then look at it and they have pride in like what they created and, what the money they made got for them. I can respect that. That's just not what I do. I travel, I collect content, and I produce content, and that's kind of my richness. That's my equity, right? Looking at all these, hundreds and maybe probably written over 1,000 articles now, thousands of blog posts, hundreds and nearly 500, videos, a few documentaries, one and almost two books, right? I kind of look up this stuff, and that's kind of like my nice front yard. I mean, you travel around the suburbs in the USA, and these people put like crazy amounts of money into like making their front yard look nice. They load it with these like carcinogenous chemicals. They like make it all, they put all this time and energy and money into their front yard just so they can like drive home after work and be like, yep, that's my yard, right? So I look at all this, stuff that I create, all this content that, I research and produce. I'm like, yep, that's my front yard. That's what I'm proud of. That's the front yard of me. I mean, I don't have a house, so you can't come into my house and, admire how green my grass is, but you can get online and, see all the stuff that I've done and stuff that I've created. And that's what really gives me a sense of pride. And that's what really, keeps me motivated and going forward. Can you say hi to Nick Gurr? He's your biggest fan. Yeah, sure. Hi, Nick. How you doing, man? Anyway, who is Nick Gurr? It's kind of interesting, right? Because I like to think that I know most of the people that kind of, the regulars on this YouTube channel or the regulars on, my blog, Vagabond Journey, people who follow me on like Forbes or like various other platforms. I like to think that I, over the years, I get to know these people and interact with them. But then every once in a while, I get a message like this, say hi to Nick Gurr. He's your biggest fan. I never met this dude. I don't know who this guy is, but he's been following apparently for a while. So it's kind of cool, right? Because there's always that chance that you're going to, meet somebody new that you didn't know has been following you and reading your story. And, it's just one of the neat things. I remember like back when I was like really focused on blogging, right, traveling through Mexico and Central America. I'd meet people like on a regular basis who like recognize me and say, "Hey, you're Wade from Vagabond Journey." I'm like, "Yeah, but who are you?" And just some guy or girl been following for years. They never said anything, never left a comment, never sent an email, never shared. I know never knows I'm sharing anything that I did on social media, and just they're just kind of like ghost, right? Anyway, it's kind of cool. I always love it when people get in touch that I've been following for a while. Okay, we have a question. Are there any smart cities that are ghost cities? Yeah, most of them. Yeah, I mean, now the rule. not the exception. The rule of new city building is smart cities, right? Smart cities are, super high tech cities that have most of their systems kind of like interconnected, that are, controlled by these like, super high tech command centers. That's like something out of like a creepy sci-fi 1984 movie. I've been in these places before, like in Seongdo, North Korea. I mean, sorry, Seongdo, South Korea. And you just go in and it's like these people like sitting at a desk with like, a room with like these big monitors and cameras, or screens, like the thousands and thousands of cameras that they have pointed on the streets, watching everybody, watching every car, logging every license plate, identify kind of strange looking people. They have houses and basically they have cameras everywhere. And these are the rule of new city building now. I mean, partially because a lot of tech companies are kind of pushing for them, partially because they become kind of a new standard. People want to live in, or at least buy property in, smart cities. Now, in the West, we kind of think, oh yeah, all this surveillance and stuff, the government's watching you, the police are watching you, everybody's watching you, and we get kind of creeped out about it. However, in Asia, the perspective is a little different. Like, I want them watching me because this keeps me safe. I'm not doing anything wrong, and all these cameras and all these people watching me, keep me and my things safe. I feel safe and secure knowing that the government is watching me. Like, seriously. So these smart cities are big sellers. And also, there's questions of, what these companies that are setting up these networks are going to do with this data and this information that they collect. And then there's also the issue that governments really want them because, governments like to stay in power, right? They like to know what their people are doing. They like to have all the data on everybody, and they like to be able to know that, fucking John Bob, goes to work at 8 a.m., every morning, comes back at, 5 p.m. And they like to know, hey, this dude didn't come home at this time. Where was he? Oh, he was over here because we have him on camera, right? So really, we're not just talking about new cities that are becoming smart cities, but our existing cities as well. Even though this is being done kind of a little bit more quietly, like London. London is technically becoming a smart city, and whatever. But that's the new future, where there's going to be a camera everywhere and somebody watching you. And a lot of these cameras are kind of connected to, like, face recognition technology, or technology that can like detect odd or unusual movement, for the purpose of crime prevention, but it could also be used for, of course, for a lot of other purposes as well. Public social control. Protesting could be called illegal. Demonstration. There's a lot of things that, this stuff could be used for. And my personal opinion is that it's really, really frightening, especially after being in a lot of these smart cities and seeing how integrated and how advanced this technology is. And it's way more advanced than I even know, right? It's we're living in that dystopian future. A dystopian future where the government and the corporations watch everything you do and know everything you do from top to bottom, and their systems are becoming so integrated that they can actually use that data now. Anyway, I'm not, kind of this, conspiracy theorist, guy, warning, lamenting and being scared of the future. That's really the reality of how we live. Anyway, we have another question. Wade, is the missing person epidemic as bad as it is in the United States of America and the rest of the world? I believe it's like 2,500 people a day come up missing in the United States of America. I'm not really familiar with the missing person epidemic in the United States too much. I would think that those numbers are possibly a little bit. I'm not in a position to really comment on that. I believe there was like a Netflix show about it or something like that. I'm not so sure, but I think a lot of, missing people are. It's so strange. I was just talking about, the government watching everything through the cameras, and now at the same time we have a missing person epidemic. How can you have two things happening at once? I'm not so sure, but I'm going to have to actually look into that. But I would say no. From what I know, I don't think that the missing person epidemic is. Maybe in Asia. It is in China. Of course. You have like 2 million Uyghurs in, Western China who went missing, right? The government came and took them. Nobody knows where they are. They're put in like detainment camps and internment camps. So yeah, I guess it is bad in places like China because people have been, being disappeared in China for decades, for generations. But outside of China, I'm really not so sure. I have to look into that a little bit closer. Um, and you think that would be a good topic for you to look into, and thanks for your videos. Um, yeah. I mean, like I said, I mean, I had no idea about this really missing person epidemic, and yeah, it would be worth looking into. It's pretty serious, pretty scary stuff. Would you feel better about it if the citizens were the keepers of the keys to the city? Um, I don't think that's possible because the integrated smart technologies are kind of all controlled by the government and by the corporations. I don't think. I mean, they're kind of selling this stuff by saying, "Oh yeah, this isn't to survey you. This isn't an invasion of privacy. It's to keep you safe, and like the citizens are going to have control of it and all this stuff." But that's not really how it happens when it all works out. Um, and also, I mean, I don't know, masses are easily manipulated as well. Can you travel using digital currency? Yeah, I mean by digital currency, do you mean, Rhonda? Do you mean like Bitcoin, or do you mean like like bank cards and like like using or using your phone to like buy things? There's a difference. I mean, as far as Bitcoin, no, you can't travel using Bitcoin. Really, it's kind of this trendy thing that yeah, you can go to this cafe over in this part of the city and actually buy something with Bitcoin. But basically, it's shitcoin. I don't. It's fucking stupid shit, right? In my opinion. Although digital, currency, as in like using a bank card and like doing currency conversions, digitally automatically with your card, that's something big, and that's really kind of it's way more advanced in most other countries in the world than it is in the USA. In most countries, you know, I would always say even most countries now, you don't really use cash anymore. China is like 99% cashless. If you buy something with cash in China, they know you're a tourist, right? Because the people there don't use cash. They just they swipe their phones for everything, right? And it's very, very similar. Even in Eastern and Central Europe and Prague, I use a card for everything. Almost every single transaction, you use a card. If you can't use a card, a place have like a little cardboard sign on the door with handwritten, cash only, no cards, right? It's very, very archaic, right? I'll keep a little bit of cash in my pocket, um, just in case I need it, but I rarely, rarely ever need it. Like I landed in Prague 2 weeks ago. So anyway, like I said, I arrived in Prague 2 weeks ago to the airport, and I haven't. I took out $100 from the airport, and I haven't spent half of it yet. I just used my card to buy everything. And that's really where it's going. I mean, cash is going to become a thing in the past. We're going to go to a stage where cash is criminal. Like you only use cash to buy things like, prostitutes or drugs or to pay somebody off, right? For all like, legal above ground purchases, you're going to use cards. And government's going to come out saying, oh, we need to get rid of the cash because we have to get rid of the corruption like India just recently did a couple of years ago. We're going to get rid of the cash because cash is fueling corruption, cash is fueling vice and whatever. So there's going to be a big social and political movement against cash. We're not going to have any cash, and all of our purchases are going to be tracked because we're all going to have to use these cards or chips under the skin, or a barcode, or your phone, or your eyes or your face, and whatever it is that we're using to pay for things digitally. And like I said, that is more advanced in probably most or a good portion of the countries in the world than it is in places like the USA, who's still kind of behind on this, kind of stuck with this legacy mentality of using cash to buy things. And also, Americans are really, really stubborn when it comes to change. We don't like having to change our ways of doing things. No, you didn't cross a sensitive line, Rhonda. The battery in the my camera just died, so I had to change the battery. You were talking about Bitcoin, like I mean, the digitalization of currency, meaning that you pay for things like digital means. I think that's something different than like, cryptocurrency, like, Bitcoin and shitcoin and all that stupid crap that people are kind of all trendy about, which is, ultimately, as I see it, easily manipulated by people with a lot of money who buy a lot of money, who invest big money in like Bitcoin, drive up the price, and they sell it all, and it goes down. Then they buy it when it's cheap again, they sell it, and all these, idealistic people kind of keep losing money. They kind of get caught up on the bandwagon and the upswing, and they invest their money and basically lose it. It's kind of like the stock market in China, where the people with the money that knows how the stock market works, they're able to like, artificially, manipulate the market. They, make it rise, then, laymen get in and they sell everything and they take people's money. Anyway, are there any more questions? Miranda, as far as missing people, I'll have to look into that. But I think there's a difference between like, real missing people and people that are, temporarily missing, or people who run away or go somewhere else. But that is really strange, that many people would go missing in the USA when things are so digital. I mean, someone makes a payment, you can find out where they are because they have their card. They like track still their exact location at the time and the date. And, there's cameras everywhere. So that's kind of really an interesting phenomenon that that we'll have to look into more. So it's pretty scary. But that's people been dealing with in China for generations, or Russia. People disappear all the time in Russia too. Anyway, guys. Oh, hey Andy, how you doing? All right, that about wraps up this Q&A session. If there's any more questions, feel free to ask, and I'll get to them. If not, then I guess I'll see you guys next week, next Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. If this isn't a good time, let me know. I can do these another time as well. So 10 a.m. Eastern time, 4 p.m. Prague time. Okay. Oh, Andy says, I'm good. I'm happy you were doing these live. Yeah, I mean, the live Q&A sessions are kind of cool because like you can interact directly with people. And they can kind of direct what you say, and also they don't take any time. I mean, there's no editing, there's no processing, there's no uploading things to the laptop. Okay, we have another question. Yes, some of the people are found, but there is still an enormous amount that are never found, like your cousin. Okay, yeah. Um. So anyway, are there any questions anymore? 10 a.m. every Monday. Yeah, that's what I'm shooting at now, Andy. Um. Yeah. Yeah, we'll go 10 a.m. Monday Eastern time. Start the week off with something somewhat productive. But anyway, that's about it for now. We've been on for about an hour almost. So there's no more questions. Oh yeah, and thanks for sending that notice, Andy. Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, I mean about that topic. I think there's I don't know. From what I know of that story, it seems like it was more than likely an unsolved murder. But then again, I don't really know as much about that as I probably should. But that's kind of the way it seems because a lot of people involved are now in prison for murdering somebody else. So that's I don't know. That's basically my take. Although I could be completely wrong. I didn't look into that as closely as I probably should have looked into that. Anyway, guys, that's it for today. I'll be back 10 a.m. Eastern time next Monday, and I will see you guys then.